Well, this is Lound Wood, and it's the night after I trapped at Sherwood Forest. Today is the 10th of March, and the conditions here are much better than I had at Sherwood Forest last night. Lots of moths on the way here, and as you can see, even on startup, there's quite a few moths in already. There's at least 2 March moths, a chestnut, and I have seen a dotted border. It's the smaller thing that's flying around the lot now that I need to check on. Well, proceedings, as you can see, there's quite a few moths flying around. The moth on the sheet left of the light is a yellow horn, which has just dropped in. Most of what else you can see flying in now are all March moths. There's at least 6 March moths in, and a couple of chestnuts as well, and what looks to be pale brindled beauty just knocking around at the back there. You may well be able to notice that if I wanted to trap in the middle of Lound Wood, I couldn't, because that big section of sallow has dropped nicely in front. But it's a fantastic night. The conditions tonight couldn't be better. It has been breezy today, but that breeze has dropped, and even on the edge of Lound Wood here, there was very little to no breeze at all. So, the majority of the species will be species that trapped last night, but there won't be mottled grey here. But hopefully there may be something different, something that haven't trapped for a year or two. And here comes a pale brindled beauty, just dropping in front of the light there. That's quite a chunky one for a pale brindled beauty, to be honest. So, I better start and write some of these down. I'll let you watch a few moths. All pale, well, all March moths. The moth directly in front there for the thermometer, that's a pale brindled beauty, quite a dark one actually. That's the yellow horn. I don't think I've seen so many March moths. Tortricoides alternella. it was mainly micro moths on the drive here, coming out of Wellow. In fact, it was all micro moths. So, hopefully we might get one of the rarer tortrixes. Maybe something like Cleris cristana, which has numerous forms, many of which are absolutely stonkers. Well, it really is warm. I'm sweating, but just watch how these moths are coming in. It's predominantly all March moths, which are filtering down from over the car, but coming up from higher up in the trees. I know I'm considerably well over 15 March moths already. We've got about 5 or 6 chestnuts. There's at least one small quaker that I've seen, and common quaker, the first Hebrew character of the year. There's going to be something nice, something different tonight. It's the night that many moths may well fly for the first time after either overwintering in the pupa of those species that hatch out early, but the ones that hibernate will certainly be on the wing this evening. I say at the moment, the moths that you can see fluttering in are all March moths. Now here's an angle that you've not seen before. You probably don't want to, but this will give you, I'll leave the camera running, but from this angle you'll at least get an idea of the number of moths that there are already. This is going to be a good night in terms of numbers. And I say virtually all of these are March moths. There's a couple of Dionophagellas in now, and there's also 2 Tortricoides alternella. The potentially more interesting species are very likely to drop in later. They'll probably have a bit of a feed. Some species tend to do, especially the noctuids. They tend to feed and mate in the early evening and then drop in later, but we'll see how long I stay here for tonight. Depends what comes in. Now then, just go through a couple of moths that there are in, and there's several new species for the year, and this is a twin spotted quaker. This is a nice pale form, and it's got the 2 little twin spots on the rear edge of the wings. There's a lot more species and a lot more moths than last night. Now there we have 2 moths. The one on the left is a common quaker, which is a noctuid, and the one in the middle there is a beautifully marked dotted border. That's a stonker, that is. That looks extremely fresh. Common quakers are pretty much dull brown jobs. There are some varying degrees of markings and slight different shades to the background coloration, but to be honest, that dotted border's about the best I've ever seen. It's a beauty. Let's see what else we've got that's coming. Oh, now this moth is another very common species early in the year, and this is new for the year. It's a Hebrew character, and it's named after the Hebrew character like mark on the middle of the forewings there. Apparently it's like one of the characters in the Hebrew alphabet, I would imagine. It's the only one, I believe, that's come in tonight. And there's a small quaker just running along the bottom of the light. It really is exceptionally busy. This is one of the best March nights I've ever had. Here's the scene. We've actually got a pug in. It's the first pug of the year, and it's brindled pug. I'll post a photo in here. Brindled pug's an attractively marked species. Typical pug shaped, not particularly colourful, but when they're fresh, the subtle markings, as the same as many of these moths, the subtle markings are really quite stunning. Moths are beautiful. They're a lot more subtle than the gaudy cousins, the butterflies. Well, the number of moths is starting to slacken off just a little bit. That's coming in now. Some different species. There's oak beauties starting to appear. There's at least 3 in now. But it's been a fantastic night so far. The sky's cleared, and you can tell the sky's cleared because the temperature has dropped this last sort of 15-20 minutes, and that's what's stopping the moths from coming in, I think. The temperature at the moment by the trap on the thermometer is still 10 centigrade. There's a bright moon in the sky, but there's still moths flying, there's still moths coming in, just at a slightly slower rate. There's over 30 now, just over 30 March moths knocking around on the sheet, and a lot of the early spring noctuids like small quaker, common quaker, just the one twin spotted quaker and Hebrew character. Nothing immediately interesting has come in, nothing rare anyway in terms of rarity or unusual species value. Non-moths include a small wood boring beetle, Tripodendron domesticum, which I don't think we've recorded at Eakring area before, so that's a nice little thing that's come in. And also something else that's turned up is the first hawthorn shield bug. That is a surprise, even for early March and on the night time as well. And now at the moment, just fluttering in towards the light is yet another March moth. But there's good numbers of dotted borders, males of course, the female dotted border being wingless. This has been and still is a really good session. I'm going to give it a little bit longer. I've got a bit more tea in the flask, which is usually a good gauge as to how long I stop for. But I've done far better for species than last night. But there again, it's been a warmer evening than last night. So we'll see what else comes in while I have another cup of tea. Well, it's 20 past 8 and I'm going to call it a night. There's a cool breeze now. I can just about make the moon out through the cloud, but it has turned noticeably cooler, and so there's not so many moths coming in. But we've had about 16 species offhand without counting. It's been a really good short session, an hour and a half, and I'm quite happy with that. So I won't bore you with the packing up scene at the end of this video. I'll just say that it probably won't be long before the trap's out again. Where will it be?